Are you lost driving online? Looking for a new destination for audible inspiration? Pull over here. This is Exit 18.
Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Chris Short, the Executive Director of the New Paltz Chamber of Commerce here on the Exit 18 podcast. Today's guest, I have Beth King, and I affectionately call her the internship guru at SUNY New Paltz. Beth, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Hello, everyone.
This is a great conversation to have because, as you know, the Chamber has, right now, I have 9 interns that are working remote with what's going on. And I've had such a great experience with the students that I've worked with in the past, the ones that I currently have on staff, and hopefully the students that I'm going to have in the future. And I wanted to bring Beth on to kind of share some insights about internship programs, what it means to the students, what can it mean to the local businesses, and kind of get a feel for, the big picture about, the takeaways that benefits everyone. So my first question to you, Beth, how did you get involved with SUNY New Paltz? When did you start, and how did you get involved into the internship program? What's your history?
Good question, Chris. So my background is that I was a student many moons ago at SUNY New Paltz, and I was aware of internships as an undergraduate. They weren't a requirement for my major. I was a psychology major. And then, of course, I was sort of stuck in that mindset that, I'm a psychology major as an undergraduate. I must need to go into a mental health counseling program for graduate school. And when I did that, yes, the first 2 internships I did were at the Psychological Counseling Center, and then I did an internship in the unlocked and the locked psychiatric wards in a local hospital. But when I saw the list of other possible internships, I saw the career office, and I hadn't really thought about, that's counseling too. And so I did that internship, and that really set me on the path to go into career counseling, which I've done for over 20 years. For me, I really appreciated those graduate level internships because the knowledge for me sinks in more when I do something hands-on. And I think that also helped direct my path for my career because I like the thought of people taking the knowledge that they've learned in a classroom and apply it in a real world setting. It's also amazing. It's very gratifying for me to see students once they've done an internship because they get it. They've learned things in the class, but it really becomes tangible to them when they go and apply it in a real world setting. And it also gives them confidence too, to be able to say, I can apply these skills. And students are often saying to me, Beth, how can I get a job in a field where I don't have any experience? And I say, that's what an internship is for. It bridges that gap. And they're always concerned about, but I don't have any experience in the field. Why would they take me as an intern? And I said, that's what an intern does. They're much more likely to hire you and really mentor you at an internship level. Once you graduate, once you have that degree, they're less likely to do that. They're going to assume that you can step into an entry-level position. Internships are also good in determining, I have a rough idea of what I want to do based upon my major, so I'm going to do an internship in that. And then that will help me find out if I was realistic with my expectations about what the job entails. So I've had students, it reinforces that they're in the right field, but some of them, it makes them understand that maybe I'm in the right field, but the wrong industry, or maybe it's just not for me at all. And I tell them, especially some of them are a little bit shell-shocked, but I reassure them the internship did its job. Mm-hmm. It told you that you need to change your course before you graduate. Maybe not change their major necessarily if they're far enough along, but maybe rethink their career goals as a result of that. So that's how I got started at New Paltz. I was a student there. At one point, I worked across the river at the Culinary Institute of America for 6 years in their career office, and then I came back home when a position opened up at New Paltz, and I've been there it's about 15 years now that I've been back home at my alma mater working.
Oh, that's great. It must be really good to be a former student and then kind of slide back in. Like I grabbed onto what you said there. I came back home. I think a lot of students, when they first graduate, I've come across this where, the big goal is go down to New York City and see what you got down there. And for a lot of them, they go through that, they like the process, and then they come back home. I know myself and a lot of other professionals have done that in our careers. When you talk to students in New Paltz, what percentage are, we'll just say local, within, we'll say an hour's drive versus international? Do you have like a basic idea of what that ratio looks like?
International students, I don't know off the top of my head. I would say it's a small portion of our students are international students, maybe about 10% or so. About half of our students, about 50%, are from the city, from New York City. So, if you do the math there, then another 40% are probably from the local area. So it's almost half and half, almost half from the city, almost half locally grown.
Now, I know that with the students that I have on board right now, they have been amazing at their ability to shift during these times. We were talking before the podcast here about using Slack and different platforms. I think from a digital native, they've been outstanding, where with a lot of businesses that they either work with through the chamber, I'll speak to the interns that I have, they are very good at bringing in the committees and using technology and teaching them, where I think a lot of interns think, well, what do I have to offer to a business? I don't have any experience. But what I found is the digital native that they have at their disposal, businesses love that, because they can say, all right, no, these are different things that I didn't really know existed, or platforms that they can make their jobs a little bit easier. And for me in the chamber, it's been great watching them, kind of give them hands off. My motto is surround yourself by smart people. These are these interns that come in that are top notch. Remove obstacles and then get out of the way. And I've been so impressed with watching them kind of grow and find their path working. And I I run a loose ship, because I want to see innovation. I want to see people taking chances. And I tell them not to, be afraid to make mistakes. How do you, when you bring a new student on board for an internship, how do you set the stage for them moving into their new roles?
It's a good question. So I can talk about me personally, and then I can talk about suggestions about what people should do. So I oversee a program along with one of my colleagues called the First Year Internship Program. It's a unique program. We modeled it after Duke University. And the First Year Internship Program is just that. It's having students who are their first year of college at New Paltz do an internship during their spring semester. Because oftentimes, to get the highly competitive internships, companies almost want students to have an internship experience under their belt already. It's a safe environment to make mistakes. All of the supervisors are employees at New Paltz, and they've either graduated from SUNY New Paltz or another SUNY school. So I graduated from New Paltz, as did my colleague Erica Wagner, who co-runs the program. So for our interns, it is their first year of college. They're already sort of, a deer in headlights. So what I try and do for my particular student is they learn event planning. As you know, I co-run the career fair each semester. And this spring, I also usually have an internship award ceremony. There's an LGBTQ event that I'm doing with a colleague. So my student gets exposed to that. Social media, they maintain what's called the internship spotlight every couple of weeks. And then they also get to observe career counseling appointments with students. Oh, wow. So for my student, I offer a variety of different things. They can observe my appointments and my colleagues' appointments, and they have a little bit of social media that they get to do and event planning. So I give them a variety of different things that they can do and check in with that student on a weekly basis to know that I'm here, these are the things that I'd like you to work on in no particular order. And then of course, if there's downtime, observe an appointment or a drop-in. So that's how I do it. And that's my advice for other people too, who are thinking about taking on an intern. Be aware of the responsibility of hosting an intern, because we always joke, oh, I have something to do. I have this project, I have no time, let me get an intern. But the reality of anybody who's ever hosted an intern is it's more work, because you have your workload and then you're hosting them at the same time. So be prepared for that additional work. Yes, they bring in new ideas, they infuse new life, but it's a lot of responsibility to host an intern as well. And the other thing is, don't just assume that they can dive right in. They need an orientation. They need an introduction to what you do. I imagine for you, the Chamber of Commerce, they're like, what is that? What do you do? I know there's businesses connected, but they'll have no idea otherwise what you do. So you probably have to give them a good orientation. And then I bet you're always there for them if they ever have any questions, and you do some sort of supervision with them. So yes, you can let them go off and running to the races, but letting them know that I want to check in with you on a weekly basis, and I also am your supervisor, so I want to sort of make sure that you're progressing, that you're learning something. And I usually do sort of a midterm check-in with them and say, okay, this is what we've done so far for the semester. Out of all of that, is there something meaningful? Is there a new project, or are you enjoying what you're doing so far? So I would say a strong orientation, and just making sure that you do guide them, you do supervise them, even if it's just a weekly check-in for 20 to 30 minutes, to make sure that they're learning something, not that just they're contributing to you and what you're doing, but they're really getting something out of the internship as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think a big piece of the way I try and run my program here at the Chamber is mentorship. I've been lucky over the years to really tag on to certain people, either inside, my position at the Chamber, people that I look up to, but then also the key to a mentorship is to have somebody outside of your industry, someone who's not personally vested in your success or failure that you could bounce ideas around off of.
Right.
What I try and do with all my interns, we meet actually right now. Before, we would have interns in the office usually every day during the week. They all have different times, between classes where they would stop in. Sometimes I'd have 2, maybe 3 in the office at any given point in time. Since we've gone virtual, we have a weekly call on Zoom where we have everybody, if they can make it based on their schedules and what they're doing as far as classwork right now. So Tuesdays at 2, we have a Zoom call, and we have everybody on that call. And what's great about that is it's scheduled for an hour, 9 times out of 10. The ideas and the crowdsourcing of support amongst each other usually runs almost an hour and a half to 2 hours, where someone says, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me here? Or do you have any ideas for this? And it's amazing how they all kind of gravitate towards each other. And early on this semester, what I thought was great is they self-organized, and they all met for coffee at the beginning of the semester, and they kind of get to know each other. And now out of this, not only because they're working with the Chamber, but they become friends and they talk to each other on the outside. So it's pretty cool. And it's I think that's a key point, as you said, right now with the status that we're in, over communicating. We use Slack all the time.
Absolutely.
I try to jump in there and I see the conversations, and if I have to comment or jump in, they'll tag me, hey Chris, what do you think about this? And it's really given us an opportunity to stay in touch throughout the week. And then we basically recap and go over those things on Tuesdays. I have had, for every intern that I've had, there's times throughout the weeks or the months where they said, hey, I have some questions. Can we meet just one-on-one? And that's absolutely, my door was always open, and it still is, where they're scheduling some time to, have a call, just the 2 of us, and say, this is what I got a blog post I'm working on, or here's an idea for social. What do you think? And we'll vet it out together. And that's part of that learning and mentoring piece. So I know for me, it was a huge part of my career over the last 15, 20 years to have people like that as a sounding board, and to have a group of students that see value in that process has been amazing. And that's, I attribute that success to what you're doing there at the college. So thank you very much. That's definitely
Chris, I just want to piggyback off what you're saying, because over communicating, really communicating with students is key. Yes, they're responsible, they're mature, they're young adults, but at the same time, sometimes they get a little embarrassed when they don't know how to do something. So you just checking in with them. Are you sure you're comfortable? Do you have some idea of what you're doing? Because I noticed that's where sometimes internship supervisors, businesses kind of get into a little bit of trouble with their students, is just assuming that they're young adults, they know what they're doing, and not understanding that sometimes the student doesn't quite get it, but is embarrassed that they don't get it.
There's things that I still don't get. I'm still trying to work out my career. It's been 20 years. Yeah, you make a great point, is don't assume.
Right.
Definitely, I try and set the stage. I try and create an environment for creativity, exploration, to make sure that they're like, well, here's a new platform. Here's something I want to experiment with. This is good. And they're like, what should I do? I'm like, track the data. Let the data tell us if this is a good idea, if it's not working or shifting. And over the past few weeks, they've noticed the trend. We figured out how people are online, the Instagram crowd versus the Facebook crowd. And then now it's changed. So now they're starting to look at, all right, well, people like this and they like that. What's really cool for me is to show them how to look through the data and actually understand the behavior of our, visitors or everybody that comes to the website or the social.
Right.
And it's that soft skill that goes above and beyond, which ties into the mentorship, so that it's not just create a graphic, post it on social, wash your hands, go to the next project, that it's a learning and an evolution process. So that's been interesting. And I've actually been flattered by some of the interns in the past couple months. They say, this is really cool because I learned the theory in school, but now you're showing me Google Analytics tied with Facebook Insights, and we're putting them together and we're creating a storyline of what that person's behavior looks like. And that's really exciting for them to figure out that, oh, it's more than just creating something and putting it out there, especially for business and marketing students. It kind of ties it all.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So I got a question. When an intern is looking for a position, how do they interface with you for placement, and what can an intern expect? Or, when they come to the table, expectations versus reality, how do you paint that picture for them?
It's a good question. So the students don't necessarily have to connect with me, but they can absolutely do that. I have several colleagues in my office, and they follow what's called a specialist model. So for each of the academic schools on campus, one of my colleagues oversees that school and therefore can help with internships as well. But then I'm a generalist, meaning I will meet with anybody who's looking for an internship as well. So they can easily make an appointment with us through Calendly. They can go right online to schedule an appointment with us. And I always like to do internships as an appointment rather than a drop-in, because you'd be amazed how many students email me and they just send this random email. I don't know the student yet. I don't know their major. In the email, they're like, I'm thinking about doing a summer internship. Where should I look? Well, I need to know your major. I need to know more about you. I could look at a magic 8-ball, but so I chat with the student and really find out, because for any given major, there's so many different possibilities. So I try to get a sense of who they are, what they're interested in, just to give them a starting point of where to look for an internship. But certainly the general services in our office would include writing a resume, writing a cover letter. We host a career fair every fall and every spring to give a networking opportunity, like a large-scale networking opportunity to our students. But then we also host employers sometimes they can walk into a course that 3 of us teach that's called Internship and Career Practicum, to do a quick 5 to 10 minute pitch about their own internship opportunity. So besides the documents they need to apply, the resume and the cover letter, we also can do a practice job interview with them. Typically, pre-COVID-19, we have 2 interview rooms in our office. One of us would pretend to be an employer and ask them questions. Now I do it over video conferencing, the same thing. I'll pretend to be an employer and prep them for an upcoming interview, or just to prepare for a job interview when it's in the future. It doesn't have to be impending. It's just to give them an idea of, how do I look on paper? How do I sound for a job interview? We'll also talk about physical appearance, what they should wear for a job interview. We do have a partnership with Dress for Success and Suited to Succeed. It's a nonprofit organization in Dutchess County where we connect our students to get free business apparel as well. And then the School of Business has started a career closet right in their building to help students with free items to wear. So we assist with that as well. So anything related to a career is kind of the purview of our office. And then in terms of internship and job search, again, it's not a one-size-fits-all. So I strongly encourage students to make an appointment to meet with one of us. I want to get to know you for a few minutes, and then I'll steer you towards the resources that I might think are beneficial right now. We also currently have several different websites on our website, several different web links that talk about, because there's a few different lists for internships that are still hiring and jobs that are still hiring currently companies. Some are frozen in terms of their internships and their jobs, and others are open. So there's some really good web resources for our students right now on the website as well. So we're sort of steering them towards that. And then we communicate opportunities through social media. We have Facebook, we have Instagram accounts where we communicate with students. We're also starting an initiative now because of the world that we're in. We're going to have an Instagram live for our students twice a week. So tomorrow and Thursday at 2 o'clock, one of the counselors will be on Instagram talking about different topics for our students as well. And I know one of our colleagues in the School of Business is doing the same thing. I think in lieu of holding virtual classes, this is an interesting way for her to interact with the students. Last week, she co-hosted it with one of my colleagues in the career office, and they were talking about looking for a job right now in post-COVID-19 world. So that's another creative way to engage with our students, is on social media where they live and breathe.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion. I've been on a couple panels just recently about the future of business and what this change that we're going through right now. We're all trying to navigate this change. Do you have any insights on where you think business might go, things that we may want to consider? I know we don't all have the answers right now, but I think I'm starting to think of, how do I service our membership? How do I work with the interns? Obviously, we have HYPE, our young professional organization,
Right.
that many of the students attend events to kind of get out there and network while they're here finishing up either in their junior or senior year. They've kind of come to those events and met people and working with different teams. But how do you see, I guess, business in general, not maybe internship specific, but where do you think business, what are some key things that might be, you know, on your radar for the next, say, 6 months to a year when you're talking about business students and what the future of business may look like?
Well, I belong to NACE, which is the National Association of College and Employers. And I know that they, mind you, this feels like it's been going on forever, but it's about a month that we've really been sort of living the way we're living. March 11th was when the governor decreed that all SUNY schools had to go online, had to go virtual. So it's just been about a month that we've had to transition on campus doing remote learning. And in that time, NACE has been polling, again, it's a National Association of College and Employers. So they've been polling employers. And I know initially, back in like March 13th, there was only a small number of employers who really said they were going to just keep their internship program as it is. But I know in recent polls from NACE, there's been a shift. A lot of employers are thinking about, because summer internships are looming. This is the time that I'd be working with a lot of students, as my colleagues would, looking at resumes, cover letters, getting them out, having them interview. And I know offers have been rescinded for our students who already had summer internships secured, but a lot of employers are looking at remote because we don't know when it's going to be safe to resume in person, because we're looking at other countries like China, who are now having their second wave. So I know our governor in New York State is being very cautious, taking a look at what's happening with other countries who've opened up their doors again and had people interact more. So I think employers are taking a cue from that, and they're really thinking about, if at all possible, can I make this a remote experience? Which does sadden me, and I know it saddens our students, because part of the energy and the excitement of doing a summer internship, especially if you go to a major metropolitan area, is being there where all that energy is. Our students, there's so many students who can go to DC from all the different schools across the country as well, and the energy, the political energy and the politics there as well. So it's sad for them to think about that, but at the same time, I wouldn't want them to miss out on a summer internship. So I still am encouraging students to pursue that, but I say be realistic about that. But I think that's a good thing to think about for New Paltz, because a lot of times a lot of our students relocate back home for the summer, whereas even if they're home now, which a lot of them are in New York City, they could potentially do an internship in New Paltz if there is an internship experience that maybe a local New Paltz business was toying with hosting an intern, and it does lend itself to a remote platform. It might be a good time now to think about it.
Well, that's something I'm looking at for businesses, especially during the startup, right? So everybody's talking about the now. I'm thinking 3 months from now. So
Right.
when we start up, what can that look like? How can I partner with the college? How can I partner with other interns and local businesses and be that liaison to help get that motivation to reopen and do things? And remote work is probably going to play a large role
Right.
in building that infrastructure and letting people know that things are going to start moving forward. And I think that's really important. Do you have any success stories? I know for me personally at the chamber, I have raved about all the interns that I've had. I consider myself very lucky, and I try and be as transparent and forthcoming and open up the doors and take them into meetings and show them people and conversations that they may not normally have access to. So that's been a big piece of the way I manage. But do you have any other success stories out there that you might be willing to share that maybe you've heard some good things about?
I mean, I definitely feel like we've had a lot of success stories. We have, I think, something really tangible to demonstrate that is that we continue to host a career fair every fall and every spring. A lot of other colleges don't hold fairs anymore because it's just that they get low attendance. It just doesn't work. But because we have such a loyal following of employers, and the reason they're loyal is because they have positive experiences just like you've had with New Paltz interns. So they keep coming to those fairs and recruiting for both interns and full-time hires. So I definitely hear from different employers when they check in with me, when I talk to them on the phone or email, and they do share some wonderful testimonials about our students and how great they are, as you did the other day when you and I were chatting. You were sharing some positive experiences about our students. I wouldn't want to just pick one particular student. I'm proud of them all, but we really have a lot of strong success stories. And I'm really happy that we've been able to keep the career fair going and keep it so successful and strong. I'm concerned about fall in terms of, I know Dr. Fauci is saying that because it's going to be like the flu, it's going to be seasonal and it's going to come back, is when it might come back. Are we going to be successful at starting the fall semester in person, especially for our incoming first-year students who we want to have a traditional college experience? And then are we going to change to remote like we did in the midst of this semester? We had the career fair exactly 1 week before the governor said that it was going to turn into online learning.
Oh, wow.
So I had a room full of people shaking hands and connecting, and the next week it was, we're going to be doing virtual remote learning. So it was, it was a shock.
Definitely a shock. I don't think people were prepared for this in general. I think this took everyone by surprise, but
Right.
I'm hopeful to see, or just firsthand seeing how people are navigating and coming up and innovating with new ideas and how they're still staying connected. Obviously a big piece of the chamber is shaking hands and networking and introducing
Right.
people, but I've learned that just because the modality has changed doesn't mean that networking and being connected has to go away, right? So obviously we have
Right.
our Friday coffees, we have our business academies starting up with, I got some great speakers lined up, and moving forward, I'm so looking forward to working with the college even more as we kind of navigate these waters on how businesses are changing. And I see, SUNY New Paltz as a true ally in building and preparing the students that are locally for bigger pictures above and beyond. So let me ask you one final question here.
Sure.
What are you looking forward to this summer on a personal level? Let's just say we've got everything kind of gets into a new norm. What's one thing that you miss right now that you're looking forward to getting a chance to do come warmer weather?
Personally, we like to go to amusement parks. My son and
Big fan.
husband are huge fans of roller coasters.
Oh,
So amusement parks are petri dish, obviously. So we'd have to really be at a certain level of safety before we could resume that. So that's really something that I would love to be able to do. At Hershey Park, they were renovating and they were opening their new entrance. I don't know because I know Legoland is delaying their opening.
Yeah,
So
they were supposed to open, I believe it was early July.
July 4th, yeah. So I think it's opening now in 2021. What about you, Chris? What is
Oh,
it?
I'm right there with you when it comes to roller coasters. I'm a big fan of upside down, spin, little circles. I can't do teacups, but I'll go upside down at 80 miles an hour.
My husband's the same way. He cannot do rides that go around and around, but any sort of extreme coaster he's all about. I tried to do Disney World and Disneyland have the virtual rides right now, the point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So I did Space Mountain just because I was missing it. And it does have the sounds that you can only hear when you're in Space Mountain. But of course, you don't feel that same sort of rush, that thrill, the wind blowing in your hair. But it was a nice substitute for it right now.
Well, it's definitely keeping us together, while we're on, lockdown here, getting plans in place. I think that's a key thing for a lot of businesses, both students, businesses, organizations. We're putting infrastructure in place, and I think there's going to be some really cool innovations that are coming out of how people interact, what this looks like, and hopefully there's some roller coasters on our future there. So that'll be good. So thank you so much, Beth, for taking the time out of your schedule to talk to me today here on the Exit 18 podcast. And let's keep in touch. I think there's a lot of new things that you could share with me as we get into the summer and the fall. Let's have you back on and discuss the new plans that the college has in store.
I would love that, Chris. Thank you for allowing me to be on today.
So Beth King, the Internship Coordinator at SUNY New Paltz, thank you so much. And everybody stay tuned. Another episode will be coming up soon, and we'll see you here on the Exit 18 podcast. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.